How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So it has officially been close to 2 years since I have done a full complete manual swap on this car, and I will say if you are interested in doing it, go ahead and do it. It's probably the best thing that I've done to the car, and it's my favorite mod that I've done yet. It does get a little bit pricey, which is what I'm going to go into in this video, but I promise you it is all worth it in the end. So many of you know that I did buy this car completely stock, and it did come with an automatic transmission. I think it's like the 4R70W, I think is what it is. Now obviously I do have a Tremec 3650. Now, one of the main questions I do get is why did I buy an automatic compared to buying a manual if I knew I was going to do a manual swap or something. And actually, I really didn't know that I was going to do a manual swap. I bought this car a little over 4 years ago, and it was honestly just really good condition. And honestly, it was a steal. So if I was to pass up on the option, it would have been stupid. Now, I was in the market for a manual. A lot of the manuals I was looking at was either beat to trash or they just had too many miles, or whatever the case may have been. Now this car was still relatively low mileage at the time. It still kind of is compared to other years. I ended up buying the car with just a little bit over 100,000 miles, and honestly, for what this year is and what the car is, it was honestly really good. It was a one owner car, and it was owned by an older couple, and obviously that's always a sign to go buy the car because it's not by a teenager or somebody that's always dogged on the car. So whenever I do say that it gets a little bit pricey, it really just depends on how much is a lot to you. So the big question is, how much did it cost? And I will say that I got this kit complete from MPS Auto Salvage off of eBay. Now this isn't a sponsor, I wish it was, because I've sent so many people their way. I will say their customer service, everything was good. Everything showed up the way it was supposed to. It came on a truck and it had a lift gate service and everything. Now, I spent $1,800 on it, plus tax, obviously. This kit came with a used transmission. I think they're supposed to be under 100,000 miles, give or take. I mean, who really knows? My transmission could have 20,000 miles. It could have 98,000 miles. You really never know, obviously. But it did come with a new clutch, an adjustable clutch cable, brand new lines, I mean, everything. And the clutch that came with it is a cheap AutoZone clutch. So if you do go buy this, I would recommend getting something else. Now, I did have it in the car for close to a year, and the only reason is because my car was pretty much stock at the time, and I really had no reason to go get a better clutch. But I did end up having issues with that clutch later down the road, but it was a cheap AutoZone clutch. So that's kind of what you expect with those type of things. And if you don't believe me, here's the total price on the receipt. Now that it is after tax. It doesn't show up that good on camera, but it does say $1,835. And if you did it yourself, that means you can get away doing that by yourself. That would be spending under $2 grand, and you would now have a manual transmission in that car. But if you're somebody like me, I did have a shop install it just because it was right before Mustang week, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I knew nothing about installing stuff or anything back then, so I was not gonna tackle that job by myself. So I took it down to Mooresville in North Carolina, and I ended up having a shop do it down there. Now he charged me, I think, $2,200 maybe, but that was with a tune and a full swap. I think if you have a 99 or a 2000, I think you have to maybe potentially switch the ECU. I'm not entirely sure, but an 01 and newer, I think you can tune the ECU, which is what I did. I basically just tuned it that way I could trick it, and that I didn't think there was still an automatic in the car whenever I was driving down the road. And obviously I did go ahead and get him to do what he could and go ahead and tune the car, even though it was only a few bolt-ons by that time. But he did tune the car, squeeze a little more power out of it, which is what I wanted. Obviously it did work good for me too, because I didn't have any ECU issues. A lot of people think that you're gonna run into a lot of issues whenever you do a swap like this. And I mean, I don't know if I was just really lucky, but I did not run into a single issue, surprisingly. The swap looks pretty much close to factory. It came with this new bezel, and then obviously everything else. Shift boot, didn't come with a shift knob, it came with a plastic one. But I mean, everything works good, and I did luck out because my 3650 did come with a Steeda track short throw. So whoever had the transmission before me did throw on a short throw shifter, and obviously that saved me some money. I think realistically, the only thing that I could potentially be missing is I think there's some insulation that sits right under this bezel, but I think there's some insulation that I am missing from factory. But I mean, honestly, if you have the windows down and music on, I mean, you're not going to hear anything. If you do have the windows up with no music, I mean, you might hear a little bit more transmission noise than normal. I do think if you are going to go ahead and do this, I would go ahead and do it because it is honestly probably my favorite mod that I've done to the car. A lot of people do say if you are planning on selling the car to not manual swap it because it's going to lose value, all this stuff. Go ahead and trade your car for a manual, get rid of the automatic. But honestly, I had a little bit of attachment to this car, and like I said, it was in really good condition, and I was not gonna find anything else that was in better condition for the price that I paid. So obviously, if you're in something like my shoes, where you just have a really good starting point and you wanna be able to manual swap your car, I do think it's worth it. All right, so that is pretty much gonna cover the full segment of how much a manual swap did cost for me. Now I am gonna be taking my car to the shop, I think Thursday, which is 2 days from whenever I'm filming this. And as you know, I did have some clutch issues. I'm gonna take it up there, see if he can diagnose it. He's gonna drive it around and see if he can kind of recreate the sound and everything. So I guess after I get done working Thursday, I will pick this thing back up, and I guess we'll head up to the shop and see if he can figure out what the issue is. All right, welcome back to the next day. So like I said the other day, I was gonna go out to the shop. I was gonna see if this guy can figure out what's wrong with my car and my clutch. So I guess I'm gonna head that way right now, and I guess I'll keep you guys updated. So I did have a little bit of a drive to head out there. It is like 40 minutes away, which does kind of suck, but hopefully I'll be able to make it down there with no issues. And I want to have to rip on the car a little bit just to be able to have the clutch, maybe to get to that heat cycle and to really be able to potentially make a noise for him or whatever. Which I am gonna let him drive it. He's gonna drive the road, probably rip on it, see if he can kind of recreate the noise and see what it is. I do already have a throwout bearing ordered. I just told him I didn't necessarily want to replace it just yet and spend that much money, just because I don't know that's exactly what's wrong. So I didn't want to spend money to replace it and then there still be something that could be making that noise. So I'm getting pretty close to the shop now. I'm gonna probably let him drive it. I'm probably not gonna film anything just because I don't like doing that in front of people. But I guess after he drives it, maybe he'll give me an answer. If not, I guess I'm gonna have to, get the car on a lift and all that stuff. But I guess I'll pick it back up after this. Just got done with him at the shop. And of course, nothing happened whenever he was driving it. It only happens for like a very short amount of time, and I figured it probably wouldn't happen whenever he was driving it anyways. So I guess it was just a waste of time out here. But I mean, he said, I was explaining the issue and everything. He said he didn't really understand what I was doing either. Like I said before, I've checked like forums and YouTube videos, all this type of stuff to try to figure out what the issue is. And I mean, I've never seen anybody else have the same issue. So who knows? I guess I'll just keep on pushing it and keep going until I guess something major happens. Because I was explaining to him, and even he thinks that if it was something major, I would have probably noticed something by now. Because I mean, it has been happening for like 2 to 3 months. I do want to go ahead and say thank you. We did hit 1,400 subscribers, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping to get to 10K by the end of the year. I will be putting out a lot more videos, especially now that I am monetized, so everything will be going right back into the channel and the car and all that. I do have something that's currently being made right now, and it should be here within 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know exactly when it'll be on the car. I mean, no more than a month, but I will say the car will be louder, and that's the only thing I will say. I even told him that I guarantee as soon as I left that it'll probably make a noise on me, so I'm willing to bet that as soon as I get to the stoplight up here, I'll probably hear the noise.